Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Faith Life with me, your host, Acribba. If it sounds like I'm repeating myself, this is all new to me, everyone. This is new to me. Please let me know if you are hearing me out there. This is all new to me. And so, yeah, I'm used to the Instagram live where I can see real time what is going on. And so I realized that there is a delay on my side. And so once you can hear me, that is fine. I want to welcome you to the show. I am so excited tonight to be joined by a very, very good friend of mine, Katie Hodge. Katie and I, just a little backstory, Katie and I have never met physically, but we've been friends now and IVF sisters for about 4 years. I stalked Katie for a long time on Instagram, and she was a huge inspiration to a lot of my decisions during the journey. And so tonight, I pray that you would channel questions towards her. She's a huge encourager, and she's really, really good. She was blessed with twins, and she's going to share. Her story is just amazing. Trust me, it's amazing, and you are going to enjoy everything about it. So, welcome, Katie Hodge.
Hi, my name is Katie Hodge. I've been married to my incredible Ethan for almost 11 years, and together we're blessed to be raising our IVF twins, Abby and Sam. My primary infertility diagnosis is PCOS, and I've also been living with type 1 diabetes since I was 12 years old. Because of the diabetes, we knew when we got married that getting pregnant would probably not be a simple matter. But a year later, when I ruptured a cyst while out of town, we began to get a picture of how complicated it would be. Our journey included a lot of waiting to get my diabetes under control, to get established with a new doctor when we moved, and again when we moved back, waiting for just one more battery of tests. But we were successful with our first embryo transfer. Having come out on the other side of our infertility journey, my mission now is to help other women in this struggle to not just survive treatments, but to grow and thrive through them.
Let's welcome Katie Hodge.
Having come out on the other side of our
Hey, Katie, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome. It's so good to have you, Katie.
I'm so excited to be here. And all those pictures of my kids have me all like, oh.
I know, Katie, like when I was going through them, it took me way back to the whole journey and it reminded me of stalking you.
Yeah, we've been through a lot together.
Yes, we have. And I was telling my guests that we've never met physically, but we've maintained a distant relationship via social media for 4 years because the kids are going to be 5 and
Yes.
my daughter's going to be 4. So about 4.5 thereabout.
Yep.
We've been friends and just journeying along. Oh my God. But it's so good to have you, Katie, all the way from Ohio, everyone. Katie
Yep.
is here and she's going to share her amazing story with us tonight. Just before you begin, Katie, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I know my intro video talked a little bit about it, but my infertility story is part of who I am. It's a fairly big part because it's part of my purpose now is to encourage other women going through it. But outside of infertility, I'm a wife and a mom, and I'm a licensed school counselor, which not everybody knows about me. I don't practice, but I have the background and the licensure in it. So I'm trained in encouraging people. See, I'm a Christian, real involved in my local church. I like to read and craft and sew.
You like to do a lot of that. That's Katie in a
I'm
nutshell.
always busy.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So Katie, the first
Oh, you're a little frozen.
Infertility and the symptom.
I'm sorry, you froze just a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
did you get me now?
yeah, I got you now.
Good. When were you first diagnosed with infertility, and what was the diagnosis?
I was first diagnosed about a year after we got married. I think I was just about to turn 23. Um, that's been about 10 years now. And the initial diagnosis was polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS. I ruptured a cyst while I was out of town doing grad classes. Ended up in a hospital, not quite sure what was going on, with just this horrible pain. Um, and, with an ultrasound, we figured out that I had cysts just encircling my ovaries.
I'm back, Katie. Can you
Okay.
see me?
Yep, I see you.
Good. Yeah, it's gonna be a fight tonight, everyone, and that's okay. We understand why, because we're gonna break the silence tonight, but that's okay. We're gonna carry on. I think you continue where you were, Katie.
Okay, so I was talking about finding out that I had cysts encircling my ovary, and that's when we first realized that we were going to have more struggles than we kind of anticipated. We kind of didn't figure it was going to be super easy because of my diabetes. With diabetes, there's a timing issue. You need to be under really tight control before it's safe to get pregnant. So we knew that we would have to plan very carefully, but we weren't expecting the infertility diagnosis on top of it.
Right.
So, and then a lot of our story ended up being waiting to be healthy enough to try, because my doctors, for good reason, didn't want to do cycles with me until my diabetes was under a certain level of control. So for I think it was 6 years, 5 years of trying, 6 years of marriage before we finally got pregnant. In that time, a good bit of it was spent just trying to get the diabetes where it needed to be, before anybody would even do fertility treatments.
Wow. Wow. So mentally, Katie, how did it affect you and Ethan? Ethan is Katie's husband, everyone. How did it affect you and Ethan mentally?
It was hard. I think there's a certain amount of why us. We're good people. He's a teacher. I was in grad school in an education program at the time. We thought, of any people that should be able to have kids, the teacher and his family maybe, would be pretty good at that. There was a bit of the it's not fair. Why us? Wanting just to throw a tantrum and yell at God that it wasn't fair. We should be able to have kids. And there is anger at my doctors. I understand why they wouldn't help me at the time. But it didn't seem right that they could say, not now, you're not allowed to get pregnant. Because that just seems like a basic human right, like I should be able to get pregnant when I want to. I had doctors actually gatekeeping that for me, for good reason. I fully understand intellectually why, but emotionally, that's not an easy thing to put up with, to be told no. I think Ethan and I were really lucky that we had a solid marriage, and that we were able to, through our trial, work together against the common enemy of infertility. That it was never, we never blamed each other. It was always us against infertility. So we became even more of a team than we had been before. And I think a good half of our marriage so far has been spent in the trenches of infertility. And it was kind of a refining fire for us, I think, that we came out on the other side stronger even than before. And I know that's not always the case. You know, a lot of times couples fighting infertility end up, you know, having marriage struggles because there's a tendency to want to blame somebody. And if you can't blame a doctor, you can't, you know, blame anybody else, you want to blame your spouse. And that's
Yes,
obviously that's
yes,
healthy, but you know, it's very common. And so I think, you know, we've been lucky to be able to
yes.
grow.
You know, Katie, in the community, I remember, I don't know if you remember, but there was a lady in the community and it really touched me. They finally got pregnant and her husband left. And you know, she was telling, I can't remember her
I think
name.
I know a few people that's happened to, and I think I might know the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
You can
it was
message you her
harsh
name later.
because yeah, it was hard because she was like, you know, she don't deserve this, and I was like, you know, probably he was not dealing with it well, you know, because he was saying
Mhm.
things, you know, she would post everything and she would say, well, he was saying harsh things to her today, and she did her
Yeah,
doctor visits alone, and you know,
yeah.
it was just a lot, and so you know, like you said, if the marriage is not strong, if it's not grounded, I mean, it can go either way. It can go either way.
I think we went through the, you know, the 5 stages of grief, really. I'm a big believer that the 5 stages or the, you know, the process of grief happens um for more than just death, you know? There's the death of what you had planned. Um, and I think you really have to mourn your plans,
Yes.
what you thought life was going to look like. So, you know, I think when we found out about the PCOS and realized that this was going to be harder than we thought, um,
Hmm.
we were angry. You know, I talked a little bit about being angry, yelling at God for not being fair, yelling at my doctors from keeping us from trying. And there was you know, the sadness, just knowing that there were certain things we were going to have to let go of, not necessarily let go of the dream of having kids, because obviously we fought and we pursued that and we won. But the loss of it being a surprise, you know, like I think a lot of young married women, you know, dreamt about taking a pregnancy test, you know, because I had a funny feeling and maybe I should just go, you know, go test and see. And it was positive, and I get to surprise my husband with this great news.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I, you know, we had to kind of let go of that dream, and had to kind of, you know, be sad about that. You know, we bargained, you know, if we do this, if we do that, maybe we'll get lucky, you know, maybe you know, we won't have to go through the whole process, you know, maybe it'll just happen for us. Denial, you know, there's this thing, and I can't believe I'm about to talk about this on YouTube, but every month when you start your period, when you're wanting to have a baby, every period is horrible. It feels like a loss because it's, you know, the loss of this month's baby.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't conceive, even if you were never pregnant, it feels like a loss. Um, and yet every month, when it was getting close to time, I would just be convinced that I was pregnant.
Oh my
I was denying,
God.
you know, denying myself, you know, denying the idea that it wasn't going to happen naturally. You know, just I think I even had, and with PCOS, one of the things that comes with it is irregular periods. So having one every 28 days
Hmm.
is extremely rare for me. Like that does not happen. So, you know, when it got to be 28 days, I'm like, hey, I'm pregnant. But of course I wasn't. Of course. And you know, in the stages of grief, you deny, you know, the denial is that maybe this month that I am. And so, you know, you have to go through that whole process, I think. And it's not just once, you double back, and you experience all of the, you know, the process again and again and again.
Yeah.
You move from anger to sadness and back to anger and then to denial and back to sadness again. And it's not a you move through them one at a time and then you're done. It's something you actively have to grieve. And so I think, you know, with Ethan and me, just acknowledging each other's positions in that process of grief, acknowledging where each other are, um, acknowledging that it wasn't a him problem or a me problem, it was an us problem, and it wasn't just him or just me that was experiencing these emotions, and giving each other grace for how we're feeling,
Yeah.
and always, just being the ones who were there for each other. We each have friends and family that we can reach out to, but first and foremost is each other. And we always leaned in the past, and still in the other, things we face now, we always lean on each other first.
What about Katie? What about, because I want to talk to the newlyweds, and there's always this question when you get married, when are you having the babies? And sometimes that applies even more pressure because they want to
Yeah,
know when are the babies coming.
yeah,
And so, there's a bit of shame attached to it because everyone's waiting in anticipation. You're working on it, but
yeah.
it's just not happening. Did you and Ethan ever go through that?
A little bit. When we were first married, we were informed that we had 1 year to get pregnant, which, you know, was said jokingly, but you still feel that pressure.
Yeah.
And, we knew that it probably wasn't going to be a year. Even before I was diagnosed with PCOS, we knew it was probably not going to be that fast. And when it comes down to it, my plans to get pregnant are nobody's business but my husband's and mine and my doctor's. And I think that's something that everybody just needs to keep in mind. Anytime you feel like asking a newlywed when they're going to get pregnant, or even a not newlywed, someone who's been married 10 years and doesn't have any kids, you don't need to know. You just don't.
Yeah.
None of your business. So we, fortunately, I guess, right around the time I was diagnosed with the PCOS, I started blogging about it, and I was very open about it. Everybody in my family knows, and friends know that I'm diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
They know that my medical history is a little complicated. And once I was diagnosed with the PCOS, I was very open about that too.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that infertility was a side effect, or was a symptom of it. So that shut down a lot of the intrusive questions, but not all of them. More than when are you going to have a baby, the questions started to be, not questions, the comments, the commentary used to be, well, you'll understand when you're a mom.
Yeah.
You'll understand sacrifice. You'll understand, or, do you think it's hard now keeping a house clean? Wait until you have kids. Or, if a friend asked me or asked her Facebook friends, what would you do about this parenting situation? And I would have a comment, it would be, well, you're not a mom yet. You don't know. Forget the fact that I have a master's degree in something that, involves childhood development.
Children, right.
Forget that fact. I don't know anything about kids because I don't have any of my own yet. So that was more of what we fought than the questions about when are we, because everybody pretty much knew that I'll let you know. I'll
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
people who aren't as open as I am, because as you can tell, because you stalked me, I have no filter. I'll tell you.
No filter,
No
period.
filter, I'll tell you. We're trying, we're having a lot of sex and nothing's happening,
Right.
I'm fine with it. We'll let you know when something happens.
Yes. So,
So
Katie,
yeah.
what is advice you would give to someone that is struggling right now? What advice would you give to them? I mean, the whole gamut. What would you say to them? Because we know that there are a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
they have tried,
In silence.
they're
Yeah.
still trying,
So
and they've given up. Mm-hmm.
my first advice, I could write a whole blog on advice for people wanting to go through, going through infertility. But my first advice is always reach out, find someone you can talk to. If that's not public, if it's just one person, that's fine. If it's someone anonymous, reach out to a blogger that you've never talked to before, that doesn't live in your hometown or even your home country. Find someone you can talk to, because it's so isolating. And it doesn't need to be. Um, it's a medical condition, you know, like all the infertility things, they're not they're nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing you did to cause it. And you know, it goes back to that story from the Bible about the man blind from birth. You know, is it
Yes.
his parents' fault or his fault? Who sinned that he's blind? And Jesus said it's nobody's fault. You know, he has this so that he can, you know, bring glory to me. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
So
Katie.
it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's medicine. It's the human body is imperfect and stuff happens. And so I think, you know, finding common ground with another person that you can talk to about it, just to kind of help normalize it for yourself, especially in cultures where it's a little bit more taboo to talk about. Find If you can't find a group, find your one person. Just talk about it.
Just talk about it and don't be silent because
Right.
you know, Katie, like
When
for
you
me, like
marinate in that silence
yes.
and that shame, it gets worse and you feel worse about yourself. And, you know, stress is counterproductive to fertility. You need to not be upset, ashamed, you know, it's okay to seek treatment. It's okay to seek mental health treatment too, you know, like be a
Yes.
counselor. We're great. Um, um,
You're right. You're right,
yeah,
Katie. Because you have to talk about it. I mean,
yeah.
you really have to talk. So, Katie, I want to share. You know, you were a huge inspiration as to why I decided to go to Barbados. And you know the back end story. My husband and I, we have just gotten married, and we did not have a honeymoon. And so I saw your tags of Barbados and what was it, baby dust and
Mhm.
baby moon and all these things. And so I was like, I told my husband we're gonna go and have a baby moon. But how did you decide on Barbados, and what narrowed it down to Barbados? Because I know that in this infertility thing, I can tell you, Katie, before I found you, I was like looking at every website. I mean,
Mhm.
I was in New York, Chicago, England, Canada.
Um,
How did you narrow it down? What are the things that you should look for when making a decision on where to go?
okay. Well, what led me to Barbados is that my clinic in Ohio um, started putting me off. It was November of 2013 that we were cleared for IVF. And then for
Mhm.
some reason, the schedule just kept getting pushed further and further and further and further out, not for medical reasons at all, just for scheduling type purposes. And I felt just completely unseen and uncared for as a human, as an individual, um, at that clinic. And that that just wasn't acceptable to me. You know, it we were cleared in November and by March, you know, we're still not hearing, you know, we're hearing maybe you'll transfer or you'll do retrieval in May. And by then, you know, May would have been 6 months after we were finally cleared for treatment. And um getting pregnant is something that is usually done in an intimate setting, of
Yeah.
course. Um, and if you have to bring doctors into it, you want them to at least see you and value you as a person, and as a couple, and understand that they're being involved in something important, and monumental, you know,
Yeah.
in life that um, that they're being involved in one of the most intimate things a couple does. You know, making a baby is huge. It's an important thing, and
It-
to just be treated like just another medical chart just wasn't acceptable to me anymore. So I got a phone call from my clinic while I was during my internship at an elementary school. I went home and cried, and I was just on the couch crying all night, just off and on. You know, we'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden, tears would start falling again because this is just so unfair. You know, that we're being treated not like humans. And I said, I told my husband, I want to run away. Like, can't we just run away? Let's just run away to the Caribbean. There's a clinic there I heard of,
uh,
and like it's on the beach. You can walk from your appointment to the beach, and it sounds amazing. And let's just run away. And he kind of goes, "Is that a thing? Like, is it a thing you can
right.
do?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's not a thing that I mean, probably not. It's not, I mean, it exists, yeah, but it's not like a thing that we could do because we're very normal, boring people. And normal, boring people don't go out of the country for medical care. So,
Right.
like it exists, but I'm sure it's not for us. But, we're both researchers by nature and trade. So we get online and we just researched everything we could about the clinic, found medical journals that the doctor had submitted to, and found that they were JCI accredited, which is no small feat. And so the next day I called the clinic and I talked to Anna, who ended up being a nurse. I love Anna.
I love Anna too. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've been in medical situations in the past couple of years, like since my kids were born, and I just like I wish that they would move to the States and just start a whole practice of different specialties. But yeah, anytime I get myself into like some scary medical situation, I want Anna because she's so
like that's Katie. She is so good. Like she is so good. But isn't the whole crew there amazing? I mean, from Sterling straight to the back,
Oh my
like
goodness.
everyone is just
Sterling's
so
hug.
amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, the hugs. Yes.
She's a good
Oh
hugger.
man.
I love a good hug. But yeah, I mean, I certainly wasn't getting those hugs at my Ohio clinic, So yeah, so the next day I called and I talked to Anna, and I told her my story and how we kept getting put off and put off and put off and how that was so frustrating to me. And she heard me that the timing was important to me. So she said, pick a date, and that date will be the date of your, we'll work toward that as your first appointment. And I said, okay, well, my husband's a teacher, so let's do summer. How about July 1st? And she said, sure. July 1st will be your first appointment. We'll work toward that. And sure enough, we landed in Barbados on June 30th, and my first appointment was the next morning on July 1st. So, the fact that she could pick up on what was really troubling me, make a plan, and then stuck with it, she earned my trust in a big way. And I know that they do that for anybody. It's not just, not just the timing that is the thing that they do really well. They're also, they with the Life Wellness Center upstairs, treating patients like whole people and couples like whole couples. It's not just sterile medical numbers on charts and stuff. You're people to them. And so, I still send updates on my kids every once in a while, and they're, we're still people to them. We're still, a family that
because our babies belong to them. Like they literally own the kids. And that's, I send Anna updates all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, when are we going to get a squeeze from Skylar? So, we're family, and it's just one big family there. One of the things too, Katie.
I took my kids back, right?
Pardon?
I took my kids back, right?
Yeah, you did, and you did a blog post on it, and I think you did a write up on it, and I was like, I kept telling Freddie, I was like, we got to go back because
the coolest
they gotta get some hugs, and the cuddles, but they're just so amazing, and it's just one big community, and they believe in you, and they believe in what you want. I think that is what really stood out to me. Barbados Fertility Clinic is a clinic that stands on faith. If you want it, we're gonna get it. And I believe that they keep it real with you, Katie. Like they tell you what they're prepared to do and what they cannot do.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I mean, you were the driving force behind my decision there, because I was actually supposed to go to Florida, and I just didn't feel it.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel it, So I'm so happy with your blog post, but just some nuggets of what people should look for when choosing a clinic.
You want to look, if you're looking at clinics outside of the U.S., you want to look for JCI accreditation. It's an extremely invasive accreditation process that the clinic goes through, and it's not just cleanliness. It's also, checking how state of the art the technology is, and that they're up to date on all the research and patient care, patient satisfaction outcomes, things like that. It's extremely thorough and broad, accreditation.
Mhm.
You want to look at the success rates for your age and your diagnoses, if that's available. Success rate should be, but if down to your as close as accurately to your situation as you can.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, sometimes clinics report them differently. Sometimes they report like live births per transfer. Sometimes it's live births per retrieval.
Mhm.
You need to kind of make sure you're comparing apples to apples there when you're looking at that. Or just take into account if the numbers seem drastically different from each other. Make sure you're paying attention to how they're measuring them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So check success rates. SART is a good place to find those. Society for Artificial Reproductive Technology, maybe.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so check your SART scores. Some things to take into consideration are, do you keep your nurse? Is one nurse going to follow you the whole time? Or is it going to be like a whole clinic-wide effort? One thing we liked about Barbados is that Anna was my coordinator. I occasionally talked to other nurses, but because when they were standing in for her, but she was always my coordinator.
Yes.
Whereas that was not the case with my Ohio clinic. There were like 5 coordinators that if I emailed, I might talk to any one of them. At Barbados, they do still, they have meetings, like team-wide meetings, so that every doctor and nurse is at least familiar with every case, but you still have your specific nurse.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that everybody is read in, but also that you have someone that is your point of contact. And there's a vibe, I think you should talk to different clinics and just see how you vibe with whoever you talk to. Because there's something to be said for discernment and for personalities. And maybe you wouldn't vibe with BFC and you would with somewhere that's a little bit more clinical.
Yeah.
Sterile. There are some people who don't want their hand held. I think those people are a little crazy because I'm very much a please hold my hand, I'm scared kind of person. But, there are people who don't want their doctors and nurses to be super personable with them, which is,
Yeah.
so just kind of make sure that you're vibing. Research the doctors if you can. One thing I preferred about Barbados versus some of the other places I was looking, there are a lot of IVF clinics that people travel to in India, or the Czech Republic is another place where there are a lot of them. And I think Greece, maybe. All of those places, where English is not a first language. And so if it's important to you that you speak the same language as your doctor, you may not want to have to use an interpreter for something that is the most monumental medical thing
Mhm.
to go through, So, yes, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd recommend checking or not.
Well, I looked at the success rates for
Yeah,
sure, Katie. I was like, let me see how many successes they got out of this clinic. And then I saw someone saying that sometimes people put up false information just to get people in. And, it was a lot.
yeah,
It just was a whole lot in my instance. But, I'm happy that I chose Barbados, and I would still refer people today to Barbados because I believe that, like I say, once again, they become a part of the journey. And I
mhm,
think that's the importance, that they become a part of the journey. They make you feel like, we're going to do this, and
right.
we're going to get it,
Like you're a
and
team.
I
Yeah.
really, really appreciated them for that. At any time in the journey, Katie, did you and Ethan feel like giving up, or did you not giving up? Let me rephrase this. Did you all put a timeline on yourselves to say that if it doesn't happen, we're going to go at this, but if it doesn't happen, then I guess we're going to adopt, or too bad? Did you ever come to that?
No. Um, honestly, we didn't have the timeline conversation. We kind of knew that if we ran out of money that we'd have to stop, which is another thing that was nice about Barbados, is that it was quite a bit less expensive, even considering airfare and accommodations and all that stuff, than going to the States. So our finances would last us longer going there. Where we got pregnant, so on our first transfer, we didn't really have to have that discussion too much. We didn't have any leftover embryos after we transferred the kids, but we did have extra eggs and extra sperm that we froze separately.
Right.
Because we had committed to transferring any embryos that we created. We weren't going to leave any frozen or donate or destroy any embryos. So we did have the conversation about, do we want to fertilize the other half of the eggs? And we wanted to wait until, the kids were a little bit older, since there were 2 of them and it was insanity around here. Always insanity. We wanted to talk about, if we don't fertilize and go back by this date, then we're going to be done. And it was last summer. The kids were turning 4. So we knew that if we went back last summer and got pregnant again, that I would not deliver until the kids were almost 5. And that Ethan would be 40. And we didn't really want to have any more kids, much past him turning 40. So last summer we didn't feel ready to have more kids, and we feel like our family is complete. So we went ahead and discarded the eggs and the sperm.
Stop right there, Katie.
Yeah.
How did you feel with that? Because I froze mine. I have one left, and my husband and I, well, my situation, what had happened during birth, delivery. Yeah. But my husband and I, I had this thing in my head that I would donate it to someone. And then I started to get these crazy thoughts in my head that my child is going to be somewhere else in another part of the world. And I was like, so many things were going on. And then when I told him to discard it, that entire day I was a wreck, because I felt as if I threw a child away. And I have to talk about this now because it plays on your emotion. I don't know if it did with you, but you worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
And now,
where ours weren't fertilized, it wasn't that hard, because they weren't embryos, they were just eggs. So I didn't have that, but I have walked with a lot of people who've had to make that decision, and I've known people who've donated their embryos, and I've known people who've discarded, and either way, it's a hard choice.
It is because you're thinking, I wonder if a family is going to get the baby, that they're going to take care of the baby. And it was a whole lot. I think I told the clinic to give me a week to think about it. Just give me a week. Let me pray about it. Let me think about it. And, I just said, you know what? I'm not feeling comfortable. I thought that I wanted to. I'm just not, Katie, it's a lot.
It's hard. Even with our situation, with them not being embryos, it's hard to close that door, especially when it's something that you worked for so hard. But I have lesions on my liver that are probably estrogen fed. So if I got pregnant, they could grow and bleed out. So it would have been really dangerous for me to get pregnant. So, the fact that it would be dangerous for me, the fact that we feel like our family is complete, I don't feel like there's anybody missing. I don't look at the 4 of us plus the dog.
That's right.
And I don't look at the 5 of us and think something's missing. So I have peace about it.
Yeah.
But it was hard. I would be lying if I said there weren't tears or, kind of sleepless nights, just thinking like, am I sure I want to do this? Especially, I could go retrieve more eggs. I could cycle again and stim again and all that. But the eggs that we discarded were 26 years old. If I went back now, they'd be 33.
Yes.
So, we got rid of the young eggs, the probably healthier eggs. Just, it was sad. I definitely cried when I signed that paperwork.
telling you, Katie, I told the clinic, I think Cyrilina called and I was like, could you just give me 1 week, please, so I can I need to think about it. I
Mhm.
spoke to my husband, and Freddie is that kind of person. He's like, whatever you want to do, baby. And, he left it up to me, but I think I was emotionally attached. And
Mhm.
it took me that whole day, it was just not a good day. It was
Yeah.
not cool.
Yep.
But however,
Yeah, I think I posted in the babes group on Facebook. I think I posted like, I can't believe I just threw my eggs away. Like it's, ugh, yeah.
I mean, 'cause even though in the community, even though they're just eggs, whether fertilized or not, an
Mhm.
embryo, we
It's,
still call them our
it's
babies.
what we talked about earlier about, the
Yeah.
stages of grief, not just being about loss, but about the loss of possibility. And those
Yes.
eggs in your embryo were possibilities. And now we
Yes.
don't have those possibilities anymore. And it's something to, it's something to talk about and to grieve.
Yeah.
And I think,
Katie, so because I think we got 1 hour, but right now we're having a crisis. I know that when I was stimming and going through the process, it was the Zika virus. I don't know, do you remember
I
that, when
remember, yeah.
everyone in the
Hmm.
community was freaking out because
Especially
if
with,
you got
yeah.
bit by the mosquito, it will affect the baby and
Yep.
all of that stuff, but we still went on faith. But now we have something else going on, and like I was sharing with you offset, that I became very burdened because I started to think about the women who were preparing to stem, those that were in mid-cycle, those that had their bodies already prepared to go and get transfers,
Yeah.
and those who were just anticipating their dates to just begin.
Yeah.
How would you speak to that woman right now in that situation?
Um, it's it's hard and it's not fair. None of this is fair. Um, especially, especially the ones who have been waiting a long time for these dates to come up. I I hate it. I hate it for them. My best advice is to work on yourself. Like there's, not saying that everybody going through this has work to do, but I mean we all do. There's something we can all improve somehow. And I really think that self-care is important. And when I talk about self-care, I don't necessarily mean like take a bubble bath. I mean take care of yourself, care about you. Um, it'll put you in the best position to be a good mom soon. Um, so um, if there's nothing you can do in terms of planning for your cycle, um, read or journal or pray. Find a good devotional about waiting or
Yeah,
um, about trials. The Bible is full of stories of people who have gone through,
that's
frankly,
right.
worse stuff than this.
You're right. You're right.
It's hard to believe, but it's in there. I mean, there are so many people who've written great devotionals about waiting and about trials and about struggle. Um, find find a hobby, find a friend. I know we can't go out and meet with our friends, but Zoom is great. FaceTime is great.
Yeah,
Uh, Connect with people. Whatever you do, don't withdraw. Um, don't let yourself get into that spiral of pain. Um, so yeah,
because it is a lot, Katie, and then it literally it can drain you. And
yeah,
even before I prepared for this show, and I was thinking about it, and the Lord was showing me things. I believe that in this season, like you say, self-care is very important. And as you begin to take care of yourself, your body, your mind, everything, and you begin to allow it to become aligned, miracles will happen. Because I honestly believe that if you take your mind off of it and maybe do some homework, like one day you will wake up and you will be pregnant. Like I believe that. Like there were women in the Bible that has happened too. Like they've been waiting forever. And they didn't go through infertility treatments or anything like that. They just believed that one day their bodies are going to do, God is going to allow their bodies to do exactly what it was set to do.
So I had maybe a little bit of a different perspective on that.
Okay, go
Back
ahead.
then there were not fertility treatments, so they couldn't. Sometimes I do think God uses fertility treatments to fulfill his promises to us.
Of
For
course.
sure, I think that Dr. Skinner and Anna were sent by God, and I was sent to them, and that was,
Katie, oh
and
my
you were
God.
sent to me and our whole group of amazing supportive friends.
Yes.
I think God can still work miracles, and he does it in different ways than what he used to. As he
Absolutely.
has inspired doctors with the and
The
researchers with the
knowledge.
gifts,
Yes. The
right, with the
gifts.
knowledge and the gifts and
Yes.
the talents
Yes.
to
Yes.
learn how to do these things and to do them. Um, I think that's how he is often performing miracles now. But like you said about if you pray and you fast and you take care of yourself and you're really good to your body and you're really good just to yourself, you really care about yourself, take care of yourself, he might give you a miraculous pregnancy, or he might strengthen you in another way.
You're right, Katie. You're right. It can go either way.
Right. And worst case scenario,
Mhm.
you don't get miraculously pregnant, but you've done something good for yourself anyway. You're never going to regret having spent the time to take care of yourself, to make your body healthier, to make your mind healthier, to make your marriage healthier.
And you know
You're
something, Katie,
never going to regret.
not to
Yeah.
cut you off, but your view is pretty much right because you know I conceived my oldest child naturally. All
Hmm.
right. There was no infertility issues or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I got married. Boom. I'm struck with this infertility. And so now Anna and Dr. Skinner, those are like these angels
Hmm.
that were sent, to assist in getting what our bodies can do. And so I must agree with you with that too. I must agree with you with that too. I think both our viewpoints. It's just like
Hmm.
from my standpoint, I was thinking that right now we can't travel.
Right.
We can't
Right.
travel. And so we need to hold on to the miraculous,
Right.
for right now,
Right.
because levels are high right now, Katie. Levels
Yeah.
are really
Yeah.
high. All right. It's
Yeah.
it's it's really I'll share a story. There was a lady I will never forget. She and I became connected through a friend. And she doesn't live here. I think she lives in Canada or something. And we connected and we began sharing. And Katie, in the infertility community, I was this big person there
Is it the one?
talking about
Is
my
it the one I know from
scriptures.
Canada also?
Pardon?
Is it the one I know from Canada also?
No, no, not
Okay.
her.
Okay.
This is someone that I met through another friend. She's
Okay.
actually a Bahamian, but she's married to a Canadian.
Gotcha.
And we ended up connecting, and I was sharing like my tips with her and what I did and everything like that. Now, mind you, Katie, I went through IVF. All right, I went through IVF, and she was actually preparing her body for it too.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we had this conversation, and she was like, "I believe so much. Like I believe." And it's like I said, do you believe that if you go to the clinic, maybe, something could just be in there? And she was like, I do. Like, we're not thinking that it's there, Katie. We're
Mm-hmm.
just saying it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
do you know when she went for her, not the stims,
Baseline.
to check in the uterus and
Baseline
stuff?
ultrasound.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, there was a whole sack of baby in there.
Ah.
I remember her like, like it happened. Like, and
Yep.
so my mind literally went back to her story
Mm-hmm.
because at that moment she was actually going for the IVF treatment.
Yeah.
But like you say, God has his way of which way he wants you to go.
Right.
Because look
Um,
at me, Katie. I mean,
right.
I had to go through the medication,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, and sometimes the miracle you're praying for isn't the one you need. So if you're praying for a miracle and you get a stronger marriage and you still have to go through IVF, the stronger marriage is still a miracle.
Oh, that's so good, Katie. Yes, that's good.
There's, yeah, you'll
That
get
is
the
good.
miracle. It just may not be the one you're expecting or that you're praying specifically for. But yeah, I do definitely still believe that God is in the miracle business.
Yes, he is, Katie. Because that's just a one-off. Like I've never heard that.
Well, I mean, I've heard it before
We
multiple times.
Yeah, we've
So
just been
many.
chatting And Katie, you know another miracle that I saw in the infertility community when women went through the cycle and then they were pregnant right after it. I saw that miracle happening, but
I've
their
seen that
bodies weren't doing it before.
in our babes group. I have seen that probably a dozen times.
Oh my
Like
God.
literally a dozen times. It's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, and there's probably
Wow.
something to it about like once you're pregnant, once some of your hormones kind of rebalance for a while.
Yeah.
But still, how cool is it that our bodies can do that? Like
Now it can
we are so coolly
supposed to
designed.
do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Oh my God, Katie. That is so good. So how has parenting been for you, Katie, with the twins? And even let's just talk a little bit quickly about the crisis, your diabetic situation, dealing with the kids and being home all day. How is that going?
I'm really lucky that Ethan is home with me too. He's a teacher, so he's been teaching from home, which is fortunate because I don't think I had ever realized just how much I leave the house. Stay-at-home mom, I do not stay home like ever at all. So we miss going to the library. We had like a weekly lunch date with my parents. You know, we miss that. I've been telling people like the people I miss the most probably are cashiers at the grocery store and the strangers I meet in the fabric department at the craft store. I miss the little conversations and the little like changes of scenery.
No.
You hear that? Come on, guys.
Oh, that's everyone. I think this is, oh my God.
Yeah.
My birthday partners. Hi, Sammy.
Can you say hi to my friend?
Hi, Sammy. Hello, Abby.
Baby.
Hi, guys. Hey.
There we go. There's my
Oh
baby.
my God, Katie, they're so grown.
I know it's
Hey,
going
my
fast.
twins.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This
My
is your
friend
auntie all the way from the Bahamas.
Is that great? Yeah, we're so happy
We're
to see
just
her.
watching Mandalorian, Kiki.
He said they're watching The Mandalorian with their daddy, Kiki.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. Can you give me a kiss? Can you blow me a kiss, Abby
I'm
and Sam?
putting the helmet when he beats hooked on the TV.
That's right. He takes his helmet off. Okay. Can you,
Oh my God. Can you blow me a kiss, Ethan and Abby?
Sam and Abby.
Yeah.
Ethan's the husband. Hey, can you blow
We
Kiki?
just watched the Mandalorian with the droids.
With the droid.
Oh my.
We're not going to talk about the Mandalorian now.
So Katie, quickly, who's the talker? Sammy is the talker.
Not usually. This is different. I don't know what he's doing.
Oh my God.
He's my shy one, and this is my talker. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Can you stand up a little bit? You're short.
Hi, Abby.
You pop up. There's my girl. Okay, there we go.
Oh, that's so awesome. Hi.
She's 1 minute older than he is,
Right.
and usually she's the boss. She has what we like to call great leadership potential.
Aw, look at the cuddles. Oh, Katie.
Um,
Katie loved those cuddles. Oh my.
They're great.
Katie.
But so yeah, you know, we're having fun, going a little stir crazy every once in a while. Hey, what are some fun things we've done since we've been home? Do you like to paint?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like coloring.
And you like coloring?
Wow.
And markering. He likes to color with markers.
Do you draw on the walls?
And painting with
Tyler does, Katie. I'm sorry. My walls are marked up.
Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky we haven't had to do that. And what else we did? We rode bikes.
Yeah.
And they like to pick dandelions, which is very helpful.
And
Wow.
we just rides on Daddy's blue car.
Yeah, we rode in Daddy's blue car.
Yeah.
Wow.
To pick up Zovo van.
Because our silver van got a new air conditioner. That was exciting.
And the people.
I didn't know that
Wow,
was
Katie.
but
Air conditioner.
any chance we
Katie,
get to
I'm
get
so amazed by this, Katie, because we just see photos of them.
I'm Kiki. Well, honey. Oh, I called you honey like I'm talking to Sam.
I said,
Sorry.
I'm so amazed by this because I only see photos of them. So now to actually see them.
Yeah,
This
do
is
you hear him
amazing.
being crazy? Did you guys want to go back down to Daddy, did you say? Okay.
Sam said that.
Sam said that. Do you want to go back down too?
No.
Okay. I guess Abby's going to stick with me. And
Okay.
go back down.
Oh my God. And Katie, I just want to share the beauty of this friendship. Skylar was born one day after you.
Yes.
And Abby and Sam is a day ahead of me, correct?
You're the third. Yeah, the day before you.
The third, and I'm the fourth, and you're the seventh, and Skylar's the eighth. Amazing.
Yep.
Oh my God. I know that you were rooting for Skylar. You were like, Kiki,
I
one more
know.
day, one more
We're
day.
going to labor just a little earlier. Come on.
Yes. So Abby,
Yeah.
how are you?
Good.
You're beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh my, and you look like your mom.
Yeah.
Are you my mini?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So are you gonna send me a picture of some paintings that you did? You gonna let your mom send me some paintings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be so nice. And a dandelion too?
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Are you and Sky gonna be pen pals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Sky can.
Charlie
Oh, there's the fur baby, everyone. Let's not forget him.
Yeah.
He was first.
Yes, he was a spoiled only child for 6 years.
The only child. And Katie, how did you get him used to the babies?
So silly.
Yeah, he's so silly.
Yeah.
We actually we pulled up videos of babies crying on YouTube, and once we had like the cribs and everything in the nursery, we put our phones with that YouTube video in it, turned all the way up so that he could get used to the sound of babies crying coming from the crib.
Right.
And then, I mean, he's pretty easygoing anyway, so it wasn't too difficult. We've just, as they've been growing up, age appropriate, like don't pull the dog's hair, or
Right.
just
Right.
being proactive. I think we sent home a blanket from each of them when he was, when we were in the hospital for him to sniff.
Right.
And then I think when they first came home, put your hair down, baby. When they first came home, we put him in like a bouncy seat and put him on a leash so he could get close enough to sniff, but not like close enough to jump.
Right.
But really, it wasn't hard. He got used to him pretty well. He's adapted. He gets plenty of mama and daddy time when they're down for nap. So he
Wow.
And he's never far from where I am. He's almost always under my foot somewhere.
I know, because last night when we were doing he popped up. Yeah, he popped up.
This morning I was sewing, and he was licking the foot that was on my sewing pedal. Well, I mean, he's always close.
Oh my, Abby is so adorable.
I
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She goes, I know.
Oh yeah. And Abby, your birthday is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Have cupcakes.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
How old are you going to be?
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Katie, you know something? I had this strange thought that kids that were born by IVF, they seem to be way ahead. Like Skylar's 3, and she told me the other day, she was like, we were getting ready for school, of course, virtually. And she said, Mommy, this is too complicated. I'm like, you are 3.
What are you using the word complicated for?
Yeah, like, did you just say, and what amazes me with her vocabulary is she knows in what text to use it. And so obviously she's well aware. And so these kids are something else. So I know you got 2, Katie. So I know.
Yeah. That's why, it's always so crazy around here, and it's not because they're bad or they're handfuls. It's just that they're so much smarter than I am, and there are 2 of them.
I know.
It's pretty constant.
I know.
Business, but they're so fun.
Abby, just give me a hug through the screen. I want to get a cuddle. Oh, that was so good. Oh my God, that was so good. And everyone is going to love those cuddles because that's going to give them faith. Everybody's going to hold a baby like Abby and Sam.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Abby says yes.
I think she learned how to give hugs from Cyriline.
Ah, yes, Cyriline. Oh my God.
You remember Cyriline, our friend?
She gives the best hugs.
Yeah. She still talks. They still talk about, it's been almost 2 years since we've been in Barbados, but they still talk about the people they met there.
Yes. But anyway, so we're gonna have to wrap up because we'll end up connecting again, Katie. Because I'm sure if I get questions and people are gonna ask, even if I bring you in just to answer the questions, we can always arrange that because,
Yeah,
of course,
that'd be fun.
We're recording, but it's not live. So we're
Right.
gonna post
Okay.
it after the record. Because I've already gotten a lot of messages where people were saying that they're struggling with PCOS and they were just ready to hear everything.
Yeah.
And so I know that they're going to be really excited when this uploads to the channel.
Yeah.
But before you go, Katie, I need you to give some encouragement to the ladies that are watching who are struggling, who's faced with infertility. Give them some words of hope and encouragement.
I think that's the best thing I can
Aww.
give you. Just right there.
Aww.
It's worth it. Every shot, every moment of waiting, every, uncomfortable procedure, every conversation you didn't want to have with a doctor. They're all worth it because these come from it, and
Yeah.
these are pretty much the coolest.
Oh
Um,
my God. I mean, Abby is just giving all. Is she always like that, Katie?
yes, she's
Oh.
extremely affectionate. She gets that
Oh.
from me. Sam is very very logical and rational and smart, very laid back like his daddy. And then Abby is very emotionally intelligent and affectionate and
Yes.
BOSY.
Yes. So is Skylar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like her mama. So
Yes.
this one takes after me. The other one takes after Ethan. Yeah, we each got a tiny version of us. It's amazing.
And it's amazing for real because Sam looks like Ethan and
A
Abby looks like you.
little bit.
It's amazing. Katie, I didn't ask you one question before you go.
Okay.
So you got the transfer. How did you feel when you found out it was 2 and not 1?
I was relieved. We knew we transferred 2, and I knew that having 2 would be dangerous for me with the diabetes. Any pregnancy was going to be high risk for me, but then especially, having twins makes it extra high risk. So I was nervous about transferring 2, but once we did, you get so attached to them and you know that they're both in there and you just really want both of them. I don't know if I've ever told you this story before, but when we went in for our first ultrasound, I was 5 weeks and 6 days, so real early. And I instantly, when the computer screen lit up, I instantly saw 2 gestational sacs. So I knew that they had at least both tried to implant.
Mm-hmm.
And so the tech was digging and she measured one baby and found the heartbeat. And it was pretty slow. And so then she moves over to the other sac and she's digging and it hurts because that's not the easy kind of ultrasound, if you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't find a heartbeat. And she said the baby was small. And so she told me, baby A isn't going to make it. You won't have to have twins. Don't worry.
Wow.
And I said, but I want them. I want them both, and I told her, keep digging. So she kept going and I'm just about bruised from the inside out and, just keep looking. And she found the second heartbeat. And it was very slow. And she goes, as slow as this is and as behind as that baby is, it's not going to make it.
Wow.
So that baby is the one in my lap right now, the one that wasn't supposed to make it.
Wow.
So, I mean, when I say that she's a fighter, she has been since she was the size of a sesame seed or a poppy seed, Yeah, so she's been a fighter since forever. Hi. And so, the first time we saw them, we were relieved because we knew they were there and we knew we wanted them both. They were both our babies, and we would do what it took to fight to keep them. A little nervous because we knew it was going to be a fight, but mostly relieved.
Wow.
Having
I can just imagine, Katie, you're expecting something to find out that one may not make it, and it's a lot.
Well, so that was 5 weeks and 6 days, and at 6 weeks and 1 day, I started bleeding, and we thought we had lost them both. So we went to the ER and found out I had like a subchorionic hemorrhage behind her placenta. So she was trying to detach And so I ended up going on bed rest for a few weeks to try and, save her. And obviously it worked, but that's when we found out that both hearts were strong. So when I told my doctor about it, I said, your tech told me that this one wasn't going to make it, but then the heart rate seemed to have caught up. He said that her heart had probably started beating within a couple of hours of my appointment, that they don't really start beating until around 6 weeks. So
Wow.
when they finally found her heart rate, that heart had probably just started to flutter within, the last couple of hours.
Amazing, Katie. Wow. Wow. That's a miracle in itself, Katie. I mean, they were supposed to be here, so they're here.
Yep.
And they're healthy and they're thriving and they're growing and they're going to be 5.
And they're ornery and
Yes.
brilliant.
Now, Abby, you're going to have to send me a cupcake if you bake one. You're going to have to let Mommy take a picture and send me a cupcake.
Okay.
Is that fine?
I said, I don't think a real cupcake would travel too well to the Bahamas, but we can send it.
Right. But you're going to send me one by a photo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that, Abby. I'm holding you to that, Abby. My birthday is right after yours. So I'll send my cake to you and you'll send your cupcake to me. All right?
You guys almost shared a birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we almost did. Katie, that blew me away.
I know.
I was like, oh my God. That blew me away. I remember you, Katie. You were rooting. You were like, you're not in labor yet?
What's taking you so long?
I know. But Katie, it was great talking to you.
You
I really
too.
enjoyed this meetup. I know, like I say, I know that a lot of the women are going to be really inspired by this conversation tonight. I wish that they were live so we could have the interaction with answering the questions, but obviously,
if you need me to come
yeah.
back, I'm glad to. If anybody wants to email me, I gave you my
Yes,
email address.
Katie.
You can put in the comments. I'm everywhere on social media.
Everywhere. Katie's everywhere, everyone. And her blog is amazing. You're still blogging, correct, Katie?
It's been a long time. I haven't
wow.
I haven't posted much in a while.
But it's still up
you can
and
get back-
content
yeah,
is
it's
there.
definitely still up.
Right.
I mean, you
Good.
can still
Good.
easily contact me through it.
Right.
So
Right.
and
So feel free to
I'm
reach
working on a
out to
piece right now that's
Katie.
about a project. It's not about IVF, but there's always something.
They'll find you though.
Yep.
I posted I tagged on Instagram flourishing infertility or fertility, and then I always Katie. So I guess whichever floats their boat.
Yep.
They will get an experience of Katie like I did, because it really, really helped me so much, Katie. And you were my first friend too in that account that I made up that is still very active. To be my friend, and it was totally amazing. And I thank you, Katie, for accepting me to be a friend and having me.
It's been a fun.
I know, having me as a BFC babe, and that's so
like one of my OG babes.
Yeah, right. And so I want you to tell all of the girls, because I'm the one that will come in Instagram and write in the little group there. I think it's only about 2 of us left or 3 left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that there are 250 in the Facebook group now.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah. You need to get back on Facebook and just pop in and visit, just for like 10 minutes.
I think so, Katie. Like my husband was telling me to create an account just for one to go in and just say hi to everyone that you need to say hi to. But 250, it was not that much when I was there. It was very little.
Yeah, I think we started with 10. We're up to 250 now.
Yes. Oh my God, Katie, and things are going well. Everything is going well. Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Well, you know what, Katie? When this link is up, share it with them.
I will. We'll
give
do it
them
for sure.
all of my love to all of the women in the BFC Babes group. I love you. I wish you all the best and success. And kiss all those babies, because we're all families. So share this link so that they can see that I'm not a BFC dropout. All right. I just was kicked out.
I did not kick you out.
No, you didn't. Facebook did. Like they just shut my whole page down. Everything just shut down. So yeah. But nevertheless, you give them my love, Katie. Give them this video. Share it with them. For those that probably are still going through, that this will give them some hope and inspiration.
I know we've got a lot of ladies waiting for the airlines to start going again. So
I know, Katie, and I wish them. I'll be praying for them. I'm wishing them the best, and like I say, all the success. All right. So we're gonna sign off, Katie. I love you so much.
Much love. Thank you for this.
Bye.
Was it?
Oh, that's the best kiss in the whole world. Oh my God. Thank you, Abby.
Welcome.
I love
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye, Katie.